Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I am great. I've been out networking already this morning, so I feel like it almost feels like afternoon already.
What was those old army commercials? We've done more by 6 a.m. than you do all day,
Oh yeah,
something like that. Yeah, that's what that sounds like to me. I'm like,
it feels
by 6
it
a.m.
feels a little bit that way, but
Yeah, but that's good.
but
It's efficient. It's good. What do you
it's my
got today?
first cup of cacao for the morning. I'm back to my old Amanita mug here. Um,
Nice.
Yes, I still am on a mission. I love, you know, Pam sent me a really cool, and here she is. Because speak of the goddess, um,
Ooh, she's on live. Good morning, Pam.
she
How
is
are
on live
you?
with us today. We're so excited she's here. Um, I love, she sent me that mushroom mug, which is so amazing, and I love it. And but now I'm even like I want more mugs. I want more mugs. I think so I am going
Oh.
to Wisconsin this week and I think I'm on a mission to find a new mug up there. So we'll see what happens.
When you set your intention, the universe provides.
Exactly.
The other day I walked into one of my favorite little stores and yet again another mug spoke to me. And it actually, this is a really interesting story because I had just watched well, no, sorry, let me do this in order. So I walked into the store, the mug spoke to me. It's apparently my new favorite ceramicist, Holly. So I'm gonna unveil my new mug.
Oh,
Beautiful. And then
whale.
let me see if you can see the bottom. Hang on.
An octopus.
Can you see it?
Oh my. Wow.
But wait, there's more. It comes with this saucer. And then look at the
Oh,
saucer. Isn't that beautiful?
and the little fishies on it.
All the little fishies and there's bubbles
Oh.
and everything. So what's interesting is that I have been playing this Lemurian yeah, I like having soundscapes in the house while I'm here. I don't like dead silence. Like I don't know, for whatever that's worth. But I always have something playing and it's, I even have like I call my house the Fifth Horizon. I have a playlist called Fifth Horizon Ambiance. And so there's different moods in there. But one of them, it says Lemurian something. And it's these underwater sounds, ethereal, very cool or whatever. And then I watched this whole TikTok about, and you probably know about this, about a Aboriginal tribe in Australia where they communicate with, I don't even know what extraterrestrial beings, and it has a connection to whales, and then how the whales show up and they communicate. And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting that I bought a whale mug and I saw this whale video and I've been playing this Lemurian music. And so again, it's just really interesting how all these things are weaving together, and like the digital stuff, I get it, right? There's an algorithm out there that's connecting all of these little dots behind the scenes. But how did they know that I went and got myself a cool mug with a whale?
The universe is spying on us all the time. Like, you think AI is really cool and it's like capturing all the things. No, source, the universe, that's who's really capturing all of the things.
Honestly, always listening, always listening. This is why we keep going back to words matter and, words are spells. So be careful what you say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Anything exciting happening this weekend for you? Or that happened this past weekend?
I feel like this past weekend was 7 years ago. I don't even remember this past weekend.
So,
Some weekends are adventure weekends and some weekends are reset weekends. I think I had a reset weekend. Uh, Either that or I've completely forgotten because I'm so living in the present. Let's just call it that.
I had a truly amazing weekend. I started Saturday, I shared, I This was several months ago. I attended a neurographic art class combined with a tea ceremony. And then from that, I evolved something that I'm calling neurocrystal art. And so someone who runs another woman's, it's like a transformational training. She asked me to come and offer this workshop to her group. And so I did that Saturday afternoon. It was interesting to me because these women, I knew a few of them, but not like, like they're not inner circle people that I hang out with, that I see all the time. Um, but it was so interesting to hear, like they were talking about me to the other people that didn't know me at all. And all they kept saying was how magical I was. This woman is magic. She brings magic where it was like magic, magic, magic. And I'm like, this word is following me everywhere. And I was like, for back when I was a PT, I had been bestowed the title of the magical PT. And now I hear it's like the universe is telling me, you need to incorporate that word again. You need to use that word again more. So I'm listening and I'm going to do that. But even besides that, to go someplace and like these women were just like saying so many nice things. I'm like, I'm going to show up every time just to hear you talk about me. But then on top of that, like she turned it around on me. I've in some of the things that I've led, I've had like the people there say something good about the person that we're honoring. Um, and like at the end of the thing, she asked all the women attending to say a word about me from their experience from that event. And I was like, I did not come here like expecting to receive like such a showering of wonderfulness. And I was like, anytime you want me to do a workshop in one of your events, I will be here just to receive all of this, because it was just like so beautiful and such a reminder, like how that made me feel. And this was something like I took from my mom. My mom was always complimenting people, always like making them feel good. And it's like just a reminder, like a simple nice thing you say to somebody can totally shift things for them. So that's my request today. Like, go give completely unsolicited, unexpected compliments to people and just watch them shine and blossom and flourish. So go out there and do that. And then I also had my chakra balancing class Sunday morning, which didn't you have one Saturday evening, I think, for the new moon. And it was a small class, but the format that I did, which remind me to tell you later, like you want to try this. It was so good. But watching these women just like soak up this information, like for one of them, chakras was completely new. Like she texted me yesterday. She's like, I gotta ask you a question. And like she is all in, like getting in, because they say, to me, it is such a shame that like chakras are not really taught in our culture, but that doesn't mean that we don't have them. Like everybody on the planet has chakras, and like once you understand them, you can work with them to support you in so many things. So yeah, my Sunday class was just it was just beautiful to watch them soak in this information and like get this understanding of like, wow, this is real. This exists within me. And I'm doing great in these areas. And I can see I need help in this area, and like teaching them things that they can go to use to find more balance there. So I had so much fun this weekend with all of that.
I love that. Going to the first thing that you talked about with the compliments and giving compliments, like I think it's easier to reach in and give a compliment. Like it should, at least for me anyway, it comes up naturally. Like when you see someone, there's something about them that stands out. And for me, it's easy to say, the receiving part of it, that's something, and I know we've talked about this before, is remember that receiving is a huge part of creating abundance, right? And whether it's picking a loose dollar up off the floor or somebody gives you a compliment, say thank you. Or just the other day, I had someone come into the studio, and the weather has been cold in the mornings and then sweltering hot. Well, by our standards, it was just hot in the middle of the day. And so this person comes in and they're like panting and a little bit sweaty. And I'm like, may I offer you a glass of water? Like I offer everybody. And she's like, no, no, no. Like, I don't want to bother you. And I'm like, girl, you need the water. Take the water. Like, I know it's the mom in me, but drink the water. And also remember that this is the first step to abundance, is receiving and saying, okay, when something is offered to me, I'm going to accept it. Now, obviously use discretion. We're all grown adults here, but don't we think not bothering someone is doing them a favor, and it's just the opposite. I'm reminded of that experiment with the mice where the scientists created like a mice paradise where there was like they didn't want had can you still hear me? There we
Yeah.
go. They had unlimited food, they had unlimited shelter, comfort, the temperature was ideal. And after a certain amount of time, the society devolved and imploded, and they finally all died out because they didn't have purpose. And that's what the experiment proved, is that it has nothing to do with resources, it has to do with purpose. And so when you show someone that you need them, that they make a difference, that's better for everybody. It's better for you because you're receiving, it's better for them because they're creating. And so, that's the cycle of abundance. So number one, don't forget to receive as much as you give. It really needs to be symbiotic. And then chakra balancing class. Yeah, I did do a chakra balancing class Saturday night, which was a really nice way to spend a Saturday night. Also had some folks that were fairly new to chakras. And one of the things I love the most about that conversation is creating a space between like the concept of why am I the way that I am, and why is this happening to me, and how is it my fault, as opposed to thinking about chakras and energies and having that be a neutral, independent thing, right? I feel anxious is not I'm a bad person and I can't control my mind. It's more like, hey, my root chakra is not quite aligned. Let me focus and do some work on that. And so it creates this separation between this is my fault and I have something that is going on that needs to be addressed, So from a psychological, like mental health standpoint, even if you don't believe or you don't understand, like it just creates for me such a beautiful space, to work with chakras like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel a fine, there's no fault, but there is responsibility. And
Right. Right.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful distinction.
Yeah. Which leads right into our question for today, fault and responsibility. How to release old labels and rewrite your soul story. So tell me how that shows up for you.
I feel like this is like my story, although it can be everybody's story. But in most recent times, like where this falls is me releasing the label of physical therapist and being, stepping into this new space of I have a ministry. And one of the things that has been, it makes me so aware of this whole issue with labels, because now people are, well, what are you now? What do you call yourself? And for simplicity, like I would tell people I'm a holistic healer. But interestingly, like even that, like it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't sit right with me. And so I I guess I prefer to be in the space of not having a label. And even I had a new client, this was last week, and she goes, so what do you call this? And I'm like, I don't call it anything. It just is what it is. And like that expansion felt just beautiful because it releases all limitations. You put a label on something and it instantly creates a limitation. And even, in a meditation, I had this realization, um, just based on an interaction that I had with someone who held a label that put them like in very high esteem in the community. And some of the things that they said to me, like I felt their ego trying to limit me. And then like in this meditation, it came to me that their label created a limitation for them, and they then felt compelled, probably not on a conscious level, just on a subconscious level, to limit those that don't carry that label so that their label seems special, makes them special. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, because again, a lot of this stuff comes to me more as a feeling, and then trying to put it into words can be difficult sometimes. But any label that we put on something, no matter how big or important that label seems to be, does create a limitation of what that can be. So when there is no label, the possibilities are infinite. And I still I can hear in my ear that day that you asked me, well, why don't you just keep your physical therapy license? Like, why do you have to get rid of it? And it was just such a profound energy thing for me that I needed to be freed from that. And it is interesting in this journey, while I have freed myself on so many layers, um, then it just makes layers, limitations. I see like everywhere where the labels are creating limits. And so I'm definitely in that space of exploring what other labels can I release and get rid of and just create more expansion and freedom in my world. I have another thing to say, but I want to let you speak for a while because for once I've been talking a lot.
Well, I think you have a lot to say, and that's okay. It reminds me of that one conversation you relayed to me. I forget who you were having it with, but you said something about limiting beliefs, and someone said, Julietta, all beliefs are limiting. And it's like, you know
No,
what?
that was Spirit that said that to me. It wasn't
Was
a
it?
person.
No wonder I couldn't. No wonder I couldn't put it face to the memory.
That was the blue ones. That was the blue ones.
Yeah, and that's just so powerful because it's true, and also I do think that taken with a grain of salt, labels are important. They're useful, right? Like that's my doctor, that's my mechanic, that's my whatever. The issue is, can you create a label, or can you use a label that doesn't like you said, limit all the possibilities? And so being in that space of what is possible, for me, my mind always goes to how I identify, right? Am I a mom, a photographer, a woman, Hispanic, everything that goes along with that? As I am a person who, this is another phrase that we use all the time. Sometimes my kids will say, I'm not a person that's really good at math. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't put that label on yourself. You might be struggling right now, but you might be really great at math. Maybe it's just this particular math that you're having trouble with. I am a survivor of XYZ. That comes up a lot. I remember when I was helping folks in a certain field, they shifted the language from survivor to thriver, right? Because survivor always left you identified as a person who had suffered in a particular way, right? A breast cancer survivor, an abuse survivor, whatever it might be. But does that need to be your story? So thriver, I thought was an interesting twist on that. But really, letting go of all of that and creating your new story requires that blank space in between, you know? I think sometimes we think I am, for example, a traumatized person. You are a person who experienced trauma, but don't necessarily have to continue to be a traumatized person. And so you can become something else. And it doesn't, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one. You could be like, okay, this happened, and now I'm going to create some blank space, and I'm going to imagine and create my future, my new self. And your new self can have this as part of the story because it did happen, but you don't have to carry the weight of it, you know? I always like that metaphor of like, I have anxiety, but I'm not going to let it rule me. So I'm going to, I know anxiety has to come in the car with me, but it's going to sit in the passenger seat and you can't touch the radio, your past, put it in the trunk. Like, I get it. It's part of the story, but just put it in the trunk. It doesn't have to drive. You drive. You're in charge, So little things like that help me rewrite my story,
Yeah. And, I've spoken about it so many times in recent past because we did the Four Agreements Book Club, and the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. And I think one of the biggest areas where this shows up is, what do you put after the words I am? And choosing, and even when you were just speaking, you said I have anxiety, which is better than saying I'm anxious, but like, even take it a step more separate from you. And I've experienced anxiety.
Yeah.
I've experienced anxiousness. But I was having this conversation, going to labels. My name is Julietta, and I still catch myself slipping once in a while saying I'm Julietta. But even with that, like that, and someone was saying, like, why don't you want to say I'm Julietta? Why do you want to say my name is Julietta? And part of that is like, there is all of my history that I might want to set down that was connected to my name. While yes, you and I both experience that we have kind of rare names, like we don't meet everybody on the street carrying our name as well. But still, there is energy that anybody who's ever given that name carries that I might not want to connect myself with. And so I make a very conscious effort when I introduce myself, instead of saying I'm Julietta, to say my name is Julietta. And so using the language, because the I am, I'm is just so incredibly powerful. It's a spell, it's magic. So like, be very careful, be very intentional with what you're creating there.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up names, because for me, like, I don't have a deep attachment to my name. First name, last name, variety of last names, married, unmarried. It has never been that big of a deal to me. And I'm not sure why, but it was really interesting. So I usually introduce myself just my first name. That's it. If I could be Madonna and just be Graciela, that's fine. But I will meet people who will introduce themselves first name and last name, and sometimes first, middle, and last, right? Like, hi, I'm Sarah Jessica Parker, and it makes it sound like an entity, right? Which maybe that's your brand, right? Like, maybe you're in a business where you being, E.F. Hutton, right? Like, these names, I am so-and-so and so-and-so, which is great. Like, love yourself, be proud of yourself. That's amazing. Maybe your name carries a lot of weight, but, I don't know. That never resonated with me. And then it's really interesting because I've met folks who are like the fifth or sixth in their lineage with the same, John Edward Smith the fourth, and then John Edward Smith the fifth, and on and on and on. And I find that by the time you get to like the sixth, like, that guy's tired. That guy's tired of carrying the weight of all of these generations of men. And am I going to live up to this? And am I going to be, good enough? And am I, am I worthy of carrying the name? Like, that is a lot of heaviness, so a name really is an interesting thing. And when we name our kids, like, I don't know, to me, naming a child is it's hope. Like, you give your kid a name that means something to you, and you hope it means something to them, and so it's really fascinating. Names, that I think we could do a whole podcast just on names. That's really interesting.
We probably could. We probably could. A funny story, like you talked about just being one name, and I rarely, it's not out of any disrespect to my last name, but with a name like Julietta, like who needs a last name? But when I got divorced and was like, I didn't want to carry the last name of my ex-husband, I did look into potentially like not having a last name. And legally you can, but the issue that presents itself in modern times, because we do everything online, almost everywhere you go to sign up to do something, whatever, a last name is required. And so I researched a little bit, and there were people that had done it, and then they were really struggling in modern times because they didn't have a last name, so they couldn't do stuff online, and then it just created a whole another issue. But it is possible.
Yeah, I think it would be, I agree. I think it would be too much work. It'd probably end up being like X or period or something, because you got to fill in the blank, right?
Gotta put
But
something
yeah,
there.
yeah, fascinating. So, anywho.
um and I'm laughing because I had a story that came to me, and I was like hoping it would come to me before we got to the end of our podcast to share, and it is still out there in the ethers. It was a beautiful label story, and it's just, I don't know where it went. It's somewhere out there.
Well, you went for a walk. Someone else is telling the story. When they're done, it'll come back to you.
Yes, yes. Anything else you got about labels?
I don't think so. Just, at the end of the day, be mindful. There's plenty of labels that feel good and are wonderful, grandma and mom and woman and all of these amazing things. And also, don't let those labels limit you. That's it. That's the moral of the story
Absolutely.
for me today. And if you want a new label, all you got to do is put it on. That's it. I am the type of person
Absolutely.
who, blah, blah, blah. I'm the type of person who, blah, blah, blah. Pick it up for yourself. Do what you want. Free will.
Yes. And I feel like this is a conversation that we will be exploring for people at our retreat coming up in January. Um, it comes so often to me, people that are saying, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, because they've been living in the space of just what they've been programmed to by society, by the collective. And I just see more and more people that are really like in that space of, I need to find me. I need to find who I am. And so I'm percolating that and brewing that into one of our experiences in this wild and free retreat that we have coming up in January. And so if that's something that you would like to explore, reach out, sign up for the retreat. We still have a few spots left. And I also just want to remind people, I am going to read it. I'm going to be traveling this weekend. I should say this week. I leave on Thursday to go home to Wisconsin. So I have the book physically. I will be taking it with me because I will have plenty of time to read. But I started listening on audio this morning to Braiding Sweetgrass, and like just listening to, I think it was like the introduction. I don't even think it was like the first chapter. I was like listening to it. I'm like crying on my way to my networking this morning. I'm like, I hope I look okay walking in. That one's like, oh, what's wrong? you.
Is
But
it the author reading it or just a narrator?
do you know, I am not, I think it might be her because I don't remember hearing like read by or whatever.
Mhm.
But I can't confirm this for you. But I am really, really looking forward to this reread and sharing it and being in community with this book because, you know, the first time I just pretty much read it myself. I think you and I talked about it a little bit, but I'm super, super looking forward to reading this book again and reading in community. And I know it's going to hit me at such a different level this time than what I mean. It was amazing the first time, but I know coming around the next time, it's going to be more,
Yeah.
more, more,
It's
more.
it's absolutely the perfect time in all of humanity to be reading that book for sure.
Yes, yes. And the other thing I want to share before we sign off, today is a special day. We are going to do a second episode at noon today, and we are having a guest, which is, you know, for the first, I don't know, 100 and some episodes, we always had a guest on the show. Well, not always, but most of the time we had guests on the show. And we kind of let that lie for a little bit. But because of our success as a podcast, we have more and more people reaching out to wanting to be a guest on our show. And so we have one. And so we'll be here live again at noon. And we hope to see you there as well.
I'm very excited. Can't wait.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. I think that's a wrap. I want to wish everybody a magical day, and hopefully we see you at noon.
See you later.